Hey, Toothless. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you to all that are hopping on this live. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Um, so I'm excited to get on tonight, and let me make sure this is where I want it. Okay, yep. So, Violetta, thank you for the follow. So, I want to welcome everybody to this live tonight. We're going to be talking about a major health issue that is affecting 93% of us. It's called insulin resistance. But before I really get started, folks, if you guys wouldn't mind, drop your location in the chat, okay? And let me know where you guys are tuning in from, okay? I'm always curious where people are scattered around the world. And I just love the ability to be able to connect with people literally all over the world. I think it's awesome. And so I'm grateful to get on tonight and share something that I truly believe can make an impact in your life. And if you are somebody who is struggling with your health, I hope and pray that what I share helps you to avoid the same mistakes that I've made. Okay. And, as Solomon says in the Bible, in all you're gaining, gain understanding. Well, let me tell you, when you understand insulin, it changes everything. Okay. And I'm super grateful and blessed to get on here tonight. And I, like I said, I hope and pray that what I share makes an impact. Okay. So as you tune into this live, please drop your location in the chat. I'm always curious where people are located. Okay. And if you are struggling with insulin resistance, let me know. Okay. I'm always curious what my friends are struggling with, right? What you're dealing with. Believe it or not, but many of us don't realize that insulin resistance is the root cause of so many health issues like PCOS, infertility, okay, high blood pressure, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, okay? Understanding insulin resistance and understanding what the root cause is can address so many symptoms, folks, that we often treat separately. So let's dive into this. And thank you to everybody who's hopping on this live. If you feel like you're getting value, feel free to tap the screen because that's letting TikTok know that you appreciate the information that's being shared. Steve Smith, okay, let me know if you have any questions on the Feel Great system, okay? Here's the deal. If you want to make a big impact in business or in life, you've got to solve a major problem. And right now, the biggest health issue in the world is something called insulin resistance. It affects 93% of us. Teresa G, thank you for hopping on. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Folks, I had insulin resistance so bad that it nearly cost me everything. So I'm on a mission to share everything that I've learned and help as many people as I possibly can. And if you haven't heard of insulin resistance yet, I encourage you to Google it. It is going to be a hot health topic for years to come. Okay. Now let me ask you a real question. Okay. Why are diabetes, heart disease, obesity, fatty liver, dementia, and autoimmune issues exploding? Why are these things exploding right now? Okay. Folks, we are spending more money on healthcare than we ever have. We're taking more medications than we ever have. And believe it or not, these issues that we have today, they're exploding. Our grandparents did not deal with the same issues at the same rate that we're dealing with them today. So I want you to think about your own health as I talk about this, okay? This is not about genetics. This is a metabolic problem. It's an insulin problem. Now, for those of you that have been on my lives before, I often talk about this, right? Metabolical, okay? This book is absolutely amazing, okay? Dr. Robert Lustig, he is a nutrition genius, okay? And he said that the number one fast food restaurant in the world is not what we think it is, right? If I was to ask you the question, many of you would probably think that McDonald's was the number one fast food restaurant in the world. But he actually said it's our public schools food system. So I recommend these two books, Metabolical. Hey, Miji, thank you for hopping on. And Why We Get Sick by Dr. Benjamin Bickman. Okay, Why We Get Sick. He is a leading expert in the world when it comes to insulin resistance. Folks, how many of you have ever even heard the word insulin resistance? How many of you know that you have it? How many of you've never even heard of it before? So you're like, I don't know what it is, right? And this is a big problem because at the end of the day, so many people are affected by this. So I want to talk about a couple things, okay? And hopefully, Moon, love your question or your question. I'm actually going to talk about that. And absolutely, that's actually one of the things that I teach, okay? But let me put this up here, or let me put this down here, okay? Just a place that you guys can read it, okay? This is the root of most problems today. And I showed you these two books, right? Why We Get Sick by Dr. Ben Bickman and Metabolical by Dr. Robert Lustig. These are two different authors, right? But they all come to the same conclusion. Insulin resistance is the root cause of most chronic diseases. And insulin resistance, folks, means that your cells stop responding to insulin properly. So your sugar stays high, insulin stays high, right? Your body's fat storage starts to grow. Okay, let me put this back up here. Folks, let me know if you can't see it, but I just want to make sure that you guys can see me, okay? But when insulin resistance is occurring, your insulin stays high, right? And your body's ability to burn fat goes away, right? Your body is storing it. You can't burn and store fat at the same time. And what we're seeing is that inflammation increases, energy crashes, right? Folks, you could have insulin resistance and not even know it. And it all comes down to the problem of chronically elevated insulin in our body. The problem is chronically high insulin all day, every day. And here's the truth. How many of you were, and myself included, were taught to eat 3 meals a day? We were taught to snack 2 to 3 times a day. Guys, we're not toddlers, right? We're not babies. We don't need to snack all day long. But our food industry has made these foods so, they put things in it that just make you want it, right? And we crave more and we eat more, right? The food industry starts taking fiber out of our food. Well, guess what, folks? We need fiber in our foods for a couple reasons. Because when you're eating food with fiber, what happens is that fiber expands in your stomach. It lines the inside of your stomach. And what it does is it helps to slow down your digestion. It helps your body to get the nutrients that it needs. It slows the absorption of the sugar from the foods that we eat. But when insulin stays high, if you're trying to lose weight or belly fat or love handles, right? If you're trying to lose that, it's going to become almost impossible, right? Because your hunger increases, blood pressure rises, and cholesterol markers actually worsen. And what happens is that inflammation damages the body. This is why people can eat less, move more, and still gain weight. Now let's talk about the real villain, okay? It's not calories. It is not willpower. It's insulin. And insulin is driven by the ultra-processed foods, the added sugars, the refined carbs, the modified starches, the industrial seed oils, right? These are the things that spike your insulin over and over and over again. And what happens is that this starts to overload your liver. It damages the mitochondria. And this completely hijacks your hunger hormones. And if you've ever been told that you're broken or that you're lazy, it has nothing to do with that, right? It means that your biology is being manipulated. So we've got to get this and we have to correct it. Cindy, thank you so much for the follow. Here is something that people are never told, okay? Your liver is your metabolic control center. Think about this, right? Sugar and alcohol, they both go directly to your liver, right? It's where it gets broken down. And when your liver is overloaded with sugar and refined carbs, okay, it converts sugar into FAT, right? JJ, I love what you just said. It's funny how they never check your insulin levels whenever you get a physical. Isn't that interesting? And I'm going to talk about this because the reality is when we go to our doctor, your doctor will usually check your glucose levels. But I want you guys to think about something for a second. When they check your glucose levels, it's kind of like having a basement in your home that is dry on the surface, right? But if you look underneath it, it's completely full of water. Okay? Mark, how are you doing? And it's crazy how that is, right? And so this is why I love getting on here and I love helping people to understand what insulin resistance is. But if you're checking your glucose levels, it's like having a basement. It's full of water underneath it. And what's interesting is that there's two tests in humans that doctors don't typically check for. One is fasting insulin, and the second is chronic inflammation. Now, I'm going to say something that I think might challenge some of your thinking, and maybe some of you will agree with me. Doctors will test what they can medicate. Does that make sense? Doctors will test what they can medicate. You guys realize that your fasting insulin is what controls your blood sugar levels, right? Your glucose levels. But when you go to a doctor, they're always checking your glucose. They never check your fasting insulin. There's no money in it for them. And here's the reality, folks. At the end of the day, if our body is swimming in insulin, right, it's called hyperinsulinemia, okay? Fat builds up in your liver. Your insulin resistance actually worsens. Your blood sugar rises. This leads to fatty liver. It leads to type 2 diabetes. It leads to high blood pressure. John Campello, thank you for the follow. It leads to high triglycerides and low HDL, which is your good cholesterol, right? And by the way, that can happen even in skinny people. Think about it, folks. This is why high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and cholesterol problems usually show up together. They're not separate issues. These are literally the downstream effects of insulin resistance. And what happens is that high insulin is telling the kidneys to hold sodium, which raises your blood pressure. High insulin changes your LDL particle size, which actually increases your heart disease risk. And for any one of you watching right now, if you happen to be a type 2 diabetic, do you guys realize that your risk for cardiovascular disease goes up by 80%? Your risk for Alzheimer's goes up by 81%. High insulin drives inflammation, which actually even damages your arteries. Folks, we have 10-year-olds that are being diagnosed with atherosclerosis. Oliver Lay, thank you for being back. Okay. We've got 10-year-olds that are being diagnosed with atherosclerosis. We've got 3-year-olds that are being diagnosed with what is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now, I want you guys to think about this, okay? The reason this is the case, okay? And I want you guys to understand something, okay? Let me make sure I'm not missing any of the messages, okay? Oops. John Campello, it is not genetics, right? Think about type 2 diabetes, okay? We've eaten ourselves to type 2 diabetes, okay? And Carfer Shore, thank you so much. You're amazing. I appreciate you. Okay. Folks, I want you to think of insulin resistance like a fire that is burning out of control in your body. Okay. Just like how the smoke signals that there is a fire, right? All of these symptoms that you and I have, they are the smoke. And we can either decide to put the fire out, or we can take our fire hose and we can just spray the smoke, okay? And just watch this fire burn out of control. I want you guys to understand that our bodies that God created are powerful. Our bodies have the ability to heal itself if we give it the opportunity to do so. Road to Health, thank you. And let me know if you have any questions, right? Think about this, folks. 93% of people have insulin resistance. And the sad part is that most people don't even know that they have it. But the good news, if there's anything that you get from this, is that you can fix and reverse the insulin resistance naturally without the need for meds or diets. I think it is important to understand why we have these health issues. But I think it's even more important to understand what you can start doing to actually improve your health, right? And for those of you that are curious about what it is that I use and what I have pinned, right? I get people asking about the fan all the time, so I pin that. But this is exactly why I teach the Feel Great system. I am so grateful for the system. It has completely changed my outlook on my health. For some of you know my story, some of you don't. Okay. But back in November of 2014, okay, Marwand, this is one of the most amazing things that you'll ever come across. But let me just share my story, okay? November of 2014, I donated a kidney to my sister's husband. And I'm super grateful for that. But it was 7 years later when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. My kidney doctor said, Troy, if you don't lose weight, if you don't change your diet, if you don't start to change some things in your life, you're going to end up on dialysis or worse. So I was prescribed a medication, just like many of you were. How many of you have ever been on this, right? Some of you might even be on it now, right? It's called, I call it Ozempic, okay? But that's what my doctor prescribed me. It made me sick every time I took it. So after 2.5 months, I just stopped taking it. Folks, it was 2.5 years later when I had a friend who is a former rocket scientist, literal rocket scientist. My friend Amory, her husband and I were financial advisors for the same company. He lived in Tucson, I lived in Phoenix, but we were part of the same financial firm. And this former rocket scientist, who I've known for 15, 16 years, she cared enough about me to share something that has completely changed my life. And now this is why I get on these lives and I share this. But within a month and a half of utilizing this, it's called the Feel Great system because it makes you feel great. In fact, I'm sipping on the chlorogenic tea as we speak, right? And I sip on this from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. I sip on it all day. What I love about it is it shuts the food noise off. Okay. How many of you struggle with sugar? How many of you are addicted to sugar? I love sugar, right? I think we all do, right? They put these chemicals and things in our food that just make you want it more, right? How many of you can, seriously, how many of you can open up an Oreo package and just hold yourself to having one Oreo? You know, my dad passed away Easter Sunday, 2017. And I miss doing this with my dad, but we would get a glass of milk and we would take a sleeve of Oreos or two and we would go through it. Okay? I miss that with my dad. My dad passed away on Easter Sunday, 2017. And this is one of the reasons why I get on these lives, because I think it's important for you to understand what you can do to start fixing your health, folks. I'm happy to help any one of you that is serious about moving the needle. And thank you for the follow. Okay. I want you guys to understand I don't work with everyone, especially if you are just looking for a quick fix. But if you are truly wanting to learn what insulin resistance is, why and how it affects our body, and most importantly, how you can start to improve your health, whether you are dealing with skin issues, skin tags, psoriasis, eczema, right? How many of you have adult acne? CAR for short, within 5 months, I reversed stage 4 kidney disease. This was from my nephrologist. My kidney doctor said, Troy, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. But here's the thing. I didn't know that my migraines, my acid reflux, my brain fog, my anxiety, depression, my sleep apnea, I had no idea that every single one of those things were all caused by the exact same thing. Think about this, folks. When you go to a doctor, okay, and let's be honest, right? Most of the doctors are not talking about insulin resistance. So I want you to think about your doctor. When you go to your doctor, does your doctor teach you how to fix the root cause? Or does your doctor look at the chart and diagnose and treat it with meds? Here's the part that no one wants to tell you, and this is the truth, okay? If I go to a doctor because I've got IBS and migraines and cholesterol issues, and let's just say that I want to be an advocate for my own health and I go to 3 different doctors, I'm going to pay 3 different copays and I'm walking out with at least 3 different medications, and not one of those even touches the real root cause of our health issues. See, all they're doing is managing the numbers, the symptoms. But the moment we come off those meds, folks, what do you think happens to our health? How many of you have ever tried a diet before? You guys realize that you and I can white knuckle a diet for 2 weeks and we stop that diet. What happens to the weight that you just lost? It usually comes back. The good news is that metabolic damage is reversible. It really is. The body knows how to heal itself when insulin is lowered. So we've got to lower our insulin. Folks, lower sugar and refined carbs create periods of low insulin. And the way that you do that is fasting, right? You're creating low periods where you've got no glucose spikes and you've got no insulin spikes. When you do that, you support your liver. Increase your fiber. Have more fiber with your meals or before your meals. Eat real food. Prioritize sleep. Manage your stress. Move your body, right? Stress is something that I'm always trying to manage, right? The stresses of life and the circumstances, right? We all have it. Folks, I want you to understand something though. When insulin resistance improves, your blood sugar improves, your blood pressure improves, your cholesterol improves, your energy returns back to normal, your hunger normalizes. Folks, I want you to understand that we don't have a healthcare crisis, right? We have an insulin crisis. We have a metabolic crisis. And if any medical professional has ever told you that your diagnosis is a life sentence, it's not. We've got to understand what insulin resistance. We have got to connect the dots to the symptoms that we have, identify what's causing it, and there we can find real solutions that can actually fix. Now, one of the reasons why I get on this live every single day is because here's the truth. When you go to a doctor, they're going to diagnose and treat your symptoms. And oftentimes, you are sent home with a medication. How many of you are on a med? If you are, type MED in the chat. okay? It helps me to know how many people that are watching this live right now are on meds, right? This could be, for diabetics, there's a lot of people on metformin. There's a lot of people who are trying to lose weight, right? Now you're seeing these celebrities promote these, right? John Campello, wow. John, I would love to connect with you. Beth, thank you. Let me ask you guys a question, okay? And first and foremost, your diagnosis is not a life sentence, okay? It's a metabolic signal, okay? And when you fix the signal, your body responds really, really well. Now, I really want to ask you guys a question because I think it's important to understand this, right? Think about this. An astounding 93% of American people here in the US are metabolically unhealthy. So, if you struggle with belly FAT or skin tags or inflammation, insulin resistance may be at play. Now, think about your family reunion, okay? Think about your family reunion. How many of your loved ones face these health challenges? Do you think maybe 10 people in your family, or if you were at a family reunion, do you think you would connect with 10 people there that you could tell have insulin resistance, right? Now, let me ask you this other question, and I really want you to put your thinking cap on, okay? Penne. I'm going to share it in just a second, okay? But let me ask you this, and I really want you to think about this question, because this is exactly why I teach people. Not only that, this is exactly why I use this every day, but it's exactly why I teach the Feel Great system. But if all 120 of you had a solution to insulin resistance, whose life would you change? Put that in the chat. If you had a solution to the problem of insulin resistance, whose life would you change? Please take a minute and just put that in the chat. Whose life would you change? And I promise it's no trick question, okay? It's no trick question. And John, I would really love to connect with you, and I hope that we can. Folks, imagine saving people's lives. Imagine, right? We've got medical professionals, we've got our heroes out there, public safety, right? They have the ability to save our lives. It's powerful. But imagine being a part of that, right? Reducing the suffering that's happening around the world. Folks, I think about my own family. I have 4 sisters and I have 1 brother. My brother, when he was 33 years old, 21 years ago, took his own life. My twin sister, who lives in Utah, is struggling. She's struggled with her health for many years. My dad passed away on Easter Sunday from something that could have been and should have been prevented. My mom, who's 85 years old, lives in a memory care facility in Tennessee with Alzheimer's and dementia. You guys realize that skin issues, skin tags, neuropathy, diabetes, kidney disease, heart disease, all of these things can be improved if we just focus on insulin resistance. And Cherry Berry, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. So I really want you guys to think about your own health. When I asked the question, like, if you had a solution to the problem of insulin resistance, right? Folks, we have that solution that is validated by over 20 clinical studies. And these are studies that were done at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio, which happens to be the #1 heart hospital in the world. It has been studied by the University of Sydney in Australia. They are the blood sugar experts of the world. If you've ever heard of the glycemic index or glycemic load, they came up with that. It has been studied by the University of Utah. It's been studied by Brigham Young University. In fact, Dr. Benjamin Bickman, and I put his book in the TikTok shop here. This book is absolutely incredible. Okay. He's a leading expert in the world on insulin resistance. And so, right, it's been studied by BYU and Stanford and UCLA and UNLV and Columbia University, 24 institutions. And yet hardly anybody knows that this even exists. It's listed in the physician's desk reference, which is what doctors use to prescribe. It's HSA and FSA qualified. It's drug-free. It's classified as a nutraceutical, right? It's not a pharmaceutical. There's no meds, no drugs. It is available in 66 countries, and hardly anybody knows about it. And I want to talk about one particular, okay? How many of you recognize this drugstore, right? This drugstore used to, right? There's still a few around, but they started in 1903, okay? How many of you remember Rexall? I would imagine that some of you might have even family members that have worked at Rexall, okay? Well, Rexall used to be the biggest drugstore in the world. And back in the 80s, 1980s, early 1990s, the scientists and doctors of Rexall created a blend of plant-based fibers, which is what I'm holding here. It used to be called BioSlife, and now it's called Balance. Now, this fiber is unlike any fiber that you'll ever come across. And the reason why I say that is because, number one, the food industry, folks, have started to intentionally remove fiber from our foods, right? Think about this. When we have fiber, fiber slows the absorption of the sugar and carbs from the foods that we eat, okay? Fiber feeds your good bacteria, right? It feeds the gut microbiome, okay? It helps to detox your liver. It nourishes your microbiome, which is where 80% of your immune system is. It helps to improve IBS and gout and GERD and vertigo and these things, right? But here's the crazy part, right? Some of you have heard of the Cleveland Clinic, which happens to be the #1 heart hospital in the world. And I don't know if you can read what's in that blue box, but I'll read it for you. Okay, this was the concluding statement from the #1 heart hospital in the world. And they said such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need for lipid-lowering medications. Now, why is that important? That's important because more than 1 billion people, billion with a B, in the world are on a statin drug. And what I love about this is this helps to reduce your glucose spike by up to 43% and even your insulin spike by 60. This is huge. And if you're diabetic, you understand the importance of glucose and insulin. And by the way, this right here is guaranteed to work, and you can confirm it with a simple blood test through your doctor. That's the crazy part. Here's the part that I think should really frustrate you. Because when you go to your doctor and your cholesterol is too high, what do? They prescribe a statin. Okay? And Princess Monkey, thank you for being on. I appreciate that. Okay? So there's over 1 billion people on this. And there's a lot of side effects. And Coco and Beasley, what I do is, I mean, these are small packets. I have this in my vehicle. I take it everywhere I go. I don't ever go anywhere without it. I've literally been using the Feel Great system for 2 years. I will never stop using it. I won't. I've seen what it's done for my own health. I've seen what it's done for others. Folks, the United States happens to be one of the worst countries when it comes to our metabolic health. But it's even worse in parts of the Middle East, Latin America, Southeast Asia. But think about this. 3 out of 4 Americans, or adults really, are overweight or obese. More than half of our kids are overweight or obese. I used to be a bus driver, right? I thought it would be a fun gig. I didn't like it. I drove junior high students and elementary students. And I have to tell you, the majority of my students had health issues. You want to know what the majority of the health issues are caused by? The foods that we eat. But it's not just the foods that we eat, it's how frequent we eat. Right? How many of you back in the 90s were told to have smaller meals throughout the day because it keeps your metabolism high? Right? We were told to eat 3 meals a day, snack 2 to 3 times throughout the day. Or how many of us were told to move more and eat less, right? They call this the calories in, the calories out approach. It doesn't work that way. 54% of the American population happens to be diabetic or pre-diabetic. You guys notice that the Bible tells us that no good tree bears bad fruit? Well, I want you to think about a strong tree, right? And I want you to think about the root, okay? The root of that tree is insulin resistance, and the fruit on the tree is your skin issues, your blood pressure issues, okay? And I think this will give you a perfect perspective, okay? And John, if you're not, there's a form that TikTok has where you can stay in contact, so let's do that. And I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the Feel Great system, but I'm telling you, if you are looking for something that can make it a huge difference in your health, okay, you've come to the right place, okay? By the way, people can try it for 90 days, and if it doesn't work, you literally get your money back. Okay? It's like $5.10 a month. But look at this list, okay? I want you guys to look at this small box of a bunch of symptoms, right? These are just a very small number of symptoms, but it just gives you a perspective to identify what is insulin resistance. How do I know if I have it or not? So if you notice that you have any of these, would you guys mind putting a number 1 in the chat? If you struggle with diabetes or obesity or high blood sugar or PCOS, erectile dysfunction, neuropathy, right? If you struggle with any one of those, type a 1 in the chat, okay? And we'll see how many of the 133 people that are watching right now are struggling with this issue, okay? So if you're struggling with insulin resistance, put a 1 in the chat. And we'll see how quickly that number goes. Okay, Corliss, Scott, Dwiz, I like your handle, by the way. Okay, we've got a lot of 1s, right? I mean, the reality, folks, is 93% of people have it. So there's probably a 93% chance that people on here, right? 93% of the people on here have it. Folks, I love the Feel Great system. I love what it's done for my own health, okay? It has literally changed my life, okay? John, thank you for being on. I appreciate you, okay? Folks, one of the biggest issues is that most doctors are not talking about insulin resistance, which happens to be the root cause behind a lot of the health issues that you and I have. And by the way, if you have a doctor that is talking to you about insulin resistance, hold on to them. Because the sad reality is that most medical professionals, they're not talking about this. Why would they? Folks, think about it. Why would they help us to fix the root cause? Do they make money when you eat or when you don't? Do they make money when we inject ourselves with this GLP-1 or when we're taking our meds or when we don't? Folks, when I started using this system in January of 2024, I will be honest, I did not think it was going to work. I had put in my calendar, day 87, I am calling the company and I'm canceling because I really didn't think it was going to work. I thought it was just another supplement, another gimmick. I didn't think it was going to work. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what insulin resistance was. I had no idea because nobody ever talked about it. But when I got on this system, within a month and a half, I had lost 32 pounds. I had migraine headaches that I had for 23 years. I was in a bicycle accident on September 2nd in downtown Omaha, Nebraska. And so for the last 23 years, I had these migraines. I'd get 1 to 2 every week for the last 23 years. I had acid reflux. I had brain fog. I was waking up multiple times of the night, right? I had to go to the bathroom all the time. And now that I donated a kidney, I still have to go to the bathroom a lot, right? But it's different, right? When I was on the system for 5 months, my kidney doctor says, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. There's 2 simple things that my friend taught me that I'm going to teach you. The first one is fasting. Fasting, ladies and gentlemen, is the quickest way to regulate your insulin levels. We've got to get our insulin under control. If you can do that, you are in control of your health. Insulin changes everything. The moment you bring that down, it changes everything for you. But if insulin stays high, which it does for most people, okay, this is why a bunch of us have the health issues we have today. This is why a bunch of people are on meds that shouldn't be on meds, right? And Twisted Cajun, right? Everybody's body works different, right? I don't know what you were doing, and you know, and I'm not sure when you say I did the fasting for 2 years, what that looks like, right? How often did you fast? How many hours were you fasting? How many meals were you skipping? Folks, it's not about eating less. It's about eating less often, right? And I always encourage my customers and the people that I'm mentoring, I always encourage them to change it up. Because see, Twisted Cajun, okay? There's something magical that happens, and I'm going to put this in the chat here, okay? This will give you some perspective, okay? So when you look at this, okay, and I always encourage people to fast anywhere from 16 to 18 to 24 hours. And what I would encourage you to do, Twisted Cajun, is I would change it up a little bit. If you're fasting 18 hours every day and you're eating 1 to 2 meals within that 8-hour window, what I would do is I would encourage you to have just 1 meal. And I would fast for 24 hours. I would change it up because it creates a hermetic stress on your body. It's kind of like going out to the gym and working out with weights, right? But when you fast for 24 hours, you reset your gut. Autophagy actually begins at around 17 hours on your body. And if you don't know what autophagy is kind of like buying a house and you're gutting it, you're renovating it. It's what happens to our body. Okay? So when you fast, essentially what it means is that you are going longer periods of time without food in your body, right? You're avoiding the glucose spikes. And when you avoid the glucose spikes, you're also avoiding the insulin spike, and that's key. You've got to lower your insulin, okay? Let me explain this for a second, okay? If you put a chicken in the oven, right, it goes from pink to brown. You could literally watch the chicken cook, right? If you wanted to. You've seen this, okay? The process of cooking is called glycation. And the human being, from the moment that we're born, we're slowly cooking in that same way on the inside, right? We're slowly browning, I guess you could say. And then when you and I are fully glycated, right? When we're fully cooked, right? We're in our 80s, 90s, if we get that far, then we die, right? And that's one of the reasons why when you look at the cartilage of a baby versus somebody who's older, right? The baby's is white, but if you look at the cartilage of somebody who's 90 years old, it's brown, right? Essentially, over time, our body has kind of cooked on the inside. It's called glycation, okay? So glucose and glycation, they kind of sound familiar, right? And so the reality, folks, is that over time, stress, high insulin environments, it starts deteriorating and breaking down and causing inflammation in our gut, okay? Kathleen Garcia, what I would do is I would probably take it with a meal, right? So if you're having dinner or lunch, I would work with your doctor, right? But I would take it when they recommend. But here's the reality. You can always go back and ask your doctor, hey, if I'm taking my medications at night, can I just take it earlier in the day when I'm actually eating a food? Because oftentimes, depending on what you're taking, it's better to have it with food. So, but just taking general meds, without knowing what it is, I mean, I can't imagine that it would break your fast. Why does this conversation matter? Okay. It matters because more than half of our country is diabetic or pre-diabetic, right? 3 out of 4 Americans are overweight or obese, right? We've got all of these metabolic issues and we've got to address this, right? What I'm sipping on, some of you have been asking me what this chlorogenic tea is. This is a yerba mate chlorogenic tea. It is loaded with theobromine and chlorogenic acid. Theobromine is kind of a calming sensation, right? You can get that in chocolate and coffee, right? Chlorogenic acid, okay, is also found in coffee and chocolate. And believe it or not, this has 10 times the amount of chlorogenic acid that you would get in a cup of black coffee. And if you're drinking a regular yerba mate, not the one in a can, okay, not this one. This one, by the way, is full of sugar and carbs. But if you are drinking the old yerba mate, right, this is different, okay? You can't find this anywhere. But this has 375 times more chlorogenic acid in this tea than regular yerba mate. Chlorogenic acid is a novel insulin sensitizer. It's what helps to manage and keep your cholesterol and your blood pressure normal, right? It normalizes it. Oftentimes, most of us, we're just throwing medications at our symptoms. And if that's what we're doing, it's kind of like having a leak in the ceiling and we're placing a bucket under it to catch the water, but we never go up and fix the roof. We need to address the environment inside of our bodies, not just the symptoms. And for those of you that are curious as to what the Feel Great system is, we have a solution to the problem of insulin resistance. There's no side effects. There's no contraindication with the system. And Patricia, let me know if you have any questions. Folks, if you decide to use it, it comes with a 90-day happiness guarantee. If you don't like it, cancel. You will literally get all your money back. We have a fasting app that you can utilize that will help you to keep track of when you're taking the tea, when you're taking the fiber, right? How long you're fasting, right? It helps us to be accountable. And if you're using this consistently every single day, and let's just say that you try it for 90 days, folks, if you're consistent, it will not fail you. And if you just don't like it at the end of a month or 3 months, you get all your money back. There's no strings attached. There's no hidden agenda. Folks, we are the only company in the world that has a natural tool that is in the PDR. PDR is what doctors prescribe. How many of you are dealing with fertility? That was something that I struggled with when I was married. And there's a lot of people that are spending thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and have a family. Sperm counts are decreasing by 1%. Infertility is increasing by 1% every single year. Think about our young adults, right? 77% of our young adults are unfit to serve in the military because of these health issues, right? Whether it's mental, anxiety, right? Weight. And folks, if you're struggling with health issues like kidney disease, or you've been recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, or maybe you've got neuropathy, maybe you've lived with it for years and you're wondering when it's going to end. This is why I do this live. This is why I get on here. Because what I offer is a natural approach that works with your body, not against it. Dolphin, and it's not just about weight. This is not a weight loss system. The Feel Great system, right? That's a byproduct. If your body feels like you've got weight to lose, your body can lose it. But if your body is at a healthy weight, your body knows what a good weight is for you. If you don't have any weight to lose, this system is amazing because it's going to start helping to repair and improve insulin sensitivity throughout your body. Going back to the fasting, okay? When you fast for 72 hours, and I know that might seem like a long time, okay? 72 hours. You guys realize that it actually resets your, it resets your entire immune system. And not only that, but your body creates stem cells. I mean, that alone, folks, is incredible. But look at this, okay? This is Jeff. He was diabetic for 20 years. And within 4.5 months of using the Feel Great system, okay, just read what he was able to improve. And Winsome, thank you for the follow, okay? Over the last 11 months, he's lost 62 pounds. His neuropathy pain has decreased by 80%. Type 2, goodbye. This is why I share this. Folks, if this resonates with you, if this sounds like what you've been looking for, praying for, okay, you don't have to wait to fix your health. Folks, most people have no idea what insulin resistance is. Most of the foods that we eat are ultra processed or modified starches, refined carbs, right? You guys notice that recently they've changed the food guide? But this is a customer in the UK, folks. I mean, how incredible is it to get a message like this? It's life-changing. Dolphin, thank you for the follow. Folks, I've got a few minutes. I just want to make sure that if you have a question, I'm able to help address it. Folks, I'm telling you, you don't have to wait to fix your health, okay? I am living proof that you can improve it, okay? Try it. Would you? I like that. Exactly. What do you have to lose, right? This has completely changed my life. I donated a kidney, right? In fact, this is when I was in the hospital. Let me show you this picture, okay? This is when I was in the hospital, the day that I was donating my kidney. And I'm super grateful, right? I'm honored to have been able to do this. But to be diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease 7 years later, it scared the crap out of me. Look at Claudia, okay? Claudia was a type 2 diabetic for 23 years. She was on a medication called metformin, right? Some of you might be on that, okay? She's no longer dealing with this. Completely changed everything for her. What about lupus or rheumatoid arthritis? Okay. Crohn's disease, Hashimoto's. This was my dad. Okay. This was the day before my dad passed away, and I'm super grateful that I got to spend time with him. Folks, if this resonates with you, if this sounds like what you've been looking for, you don't have to wait. This happens to be a type 1 diabetic. 66 days decreased insulin by 64%, completely off of blood pressure meds after 47 plus years of high blood pressure. Isn't that incredible? A1C went from 7.6 to 6.5. Pretty incredible. And thank you to everyone who's been tapping the screen, who's been sharing this with people. Okay. Folks, this is how simple this system is. It is easier than any diet that you'll ever use. But when I wake up in the morning, I skip breakfast. And I have this first thing. I mix this with about 20 to 30 ounces of cold water. And I just sip on it. Okay. And I get a big bottle and I just sip on it all morning. It is clinically proven to lower your triglycerides, your LDL, your A1C. It improves your HDL. And by the way, when you fast, your body creates human growth hormone. It's incredible, right? Your body can create its own stem cells, the things that people spend thousands of dollars on. Your body creates it on its own. So when I sip on this in the morning, it shuts the food noise off. Okay. And just allows me to go longer periods of time without worrying about food. And then after lunch, right, I'm going to make my second one. Okay. The live was found to be pre-recorded. It's interesting. I just got restricted. It said that this live was found to be pre-recorded and not live. I don't know how the hell somebody can come up with this stuff that can claim that this is a pre-recorded live. I'm live now. It's so stupid that people I don't get this. I really don't. This is not pre-recorded. I'm not AI. I'm a real person. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. My gosh. Folks, if you don't like the information that I'm teaching, just take yourself off my live, just scroll up. There's no reason for you to submit a report that you feel like this is a pre-recorded live. This is live. It's 10:41 in Phoenix, Arizona. It's so crazy. So anyways, so you'll take this after lunch, and then before your biggest meal of the day, you're going to have this blend of plant-based fibers, and that's it. This fiber is clinically proven to reduce your glucose spike by 43%. It was studied at the University of Sydney. It was studied at the Cleveland Clinic. It's been studied by Dr. Ben Bickman. Okay, he's a leading expert in the world. Okay, we've got Dr. Robert Lustig, who, these are two different doctors, but they all come down to the same conclusion that insulin resistance is the root cause of our health issues. And we can fix it by improving our insulin sensitivity. And folks, it's a lot easier than you think it is. When I sip on this tea, it's the easiest thing, right? I just mix it with water and I sip on it. You can have more than one fiber, yeah. I have one before every meal. But when you order the Feel Great system, this is what it's going to look like every day, right? In your box, you're going to get 60 teas and you're going to get 30 fibers, depending on where you are. If you're like in the UK, it's probably going to be 60 fibers and 30 teas, right? I love the fiber. And by the way, when you guys are in the cart, okay, there is free shipping. But if you put in this 25% discount, okay, this code here, the promo, it takes 25% off of the price in the TikTok shop, okay? And if you guys have any trouble trying to place the order, you can connect with me and I can jump on a phone call. I can help you to be able to do that, okay? Folks, I'm living proof that you can improve your health. To go from donating a kidney to 9 years later, reversing stage 4 kidney disease, it's pretty incredible, right? To be able to sleep throughout the night and not wake up multiple times throughout the night, it's pretty incredible. I love that, right? Your energy levels, the brain fog goes away. Okay, when you give your body a break, your body has the ability to heal itself. The problem is most of us don't give our body the ability to do that because number one, we're eating all the time, we're snacking all the time, right? We're drinking sugar drinks, right? Whether it's coffee or energy drinks, okay? And the idea behind the Feel Great system that I teach and that's listed here in the TikTok shop is that it's about $5 a day. And the idea is that if you are able to, you're going to skip a meal. I prefer to skip breakfast, okay? I know some of us were taught that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. Unfortunately, that is not true, okay? What you eat first, whether that's at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, okay? That's what's important because that first meal of the day sets the tone for everything else, okay? But when you skip a meal, you're taking that money that you would have spent on the meal and you're investing it back into your health. Folks, you can't even buy a coffee at Starbucks for probably less than $5. Maybe a cup and water and a tea bag, right? But you can't buy a meal for $5, a healthy meal, right? What I encourage each and every one of the people that are willing to try this is give yourself 90 days. Folks, if it doesn't work, I will help you to get your money back. It's not about trying to make a sale. I want each and every one of you to use this, because if you were to use it, it would blow you away at how effective it is and how fast it works. Folks, there's a reason why these two products are listed in the PDR and PubMed. Doctors make money when they prescribe medications. This is not a medication. There's no money unless they're promoting it themselves, right? And here's the great thing about the Feel Great system. I don't follow a diet, folks. I eat the foods that I want to eat. I love a good burger. I love steak. I love fish. I love pizza, right? The idea is not about eating less, it's about eating less often, okay? When you have fiber before your meal, like broccoli or beans, okay, a salad, okay, what you're doing is you're basically lining your gut, your stomach. And when you have the right type of fiber, like this particular fiber that was created by Rexall, it expands in your stomach, right? And it helps to fill you up a little bit, right? It's satiating. It helps us to not overeat. When I'm sipping on this tea first thing in the morning, it literally shuts the food noise off. I don't even think about food. And folks, if you're in the cart, make sure that you're putting the promo code, the discount, because that'll bring the price. Takes 25% off, so it'll be lower than $200. Any questions, folks? I'll stay on for a couple minutes just in case you guys have some questions, or if you're having trouble. But I really